Welcome your host, Caddy Frink, as she leads discussions about substance use disorder and the journey to recovery. You're listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution.
Got to get right past that point, and then we're here. So thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution. My name is Caddy Frink, your host. I've got an incredible guest across the table from me. What's your name, sir?
Emanuel Roberts.
Emanuel Roberts, we're going to learn so much about you. I'm so excited. I need to know more about you. But first and foremost, I want to do a little thank you out for our generous funders, and we've got volunteers that help us. So I want to say thanks to funders that we have maybe sunsetted, but we are always appreciative of their support for Minnesota Recovery Connection. The Patrick and Amy Butler Foundation, but Otto Brummer Trust, the Sauer Family Foundation, doing amazing work with us right now. The Hardenborough Foundation. Alongside, we've had the Walk for Recovery, where we had donations. We had fundraising groups. We've had just random donations. Thank you very much. As we know, we are in a complicated time right now for nonprofit organizations. If you have an extra shekel in your pocket, you got an extra dollar or two. I own Minnesota Recovery Connection, maybe not, but the organization that I am representing, Minnesota Recovery Connection, and anything that helps across the table from me can always use that. So before I get into who you are, young man, what's right with you today?
Everything. I'm appreciative of where I'm at, my family, my support system. My daughter, she's going to be here today, and she likes it when I mention her name.
And that name is?
Amora.
Amora. And how old is Amora?
Amora's 10 years old.
Oh,
yes.
Oh, that sounds so exciting.
She's my world.
Yeah.
Amongst other worlds. My wife is too, so they share it.
Okay. Got to share the love, right? Got to share it all.
Yes. And what's right with you?
So what's right with me? I get to be here across the room from you because, I've been waiting to get all these recovery community organizations in here and talking. I had Fahia Badul in here last show, and I get you this. So I'm grateful that I have this opportunity. What you might not know, and many of the listeners, they've heard me say it before, and I will say it again. This has been my dream, is to have this space to be able to talk about recovery, give recovery and sobriety and all the things that we do a voice, a real voice. So I just told Emanuel that I don't really prep people too much because I really want it to be authentic. So that's why what I'm incredibly grateful for is this incredible opportunity I've been given. For as long as it's going to be, as long as it's going to last, I will be here in this chair looking at beautiful humans. That's what I get to do. So Emanuel, why don't you tell the folks before we take a break in a little bit, what are you doing? What recovery community organization are you the executive director of?
I'm the executive director and founder of Anything Helps. What we do a lot.
I know you do a lot. So we're going to get into all of it, but give a snapshot. So what I try to do is I try to set up for people when they're listening. What is it that Emanuel, why would he be sitting across the room right across the table from me? What is it that you're doing? And then we'll get a little bit into your story as we sort of proceed through this. But what are you doing for the community right now of recovery?
Right now, we're just trying to really highlight person-centered care. We hang on the balance of we're a recovery community organization that also houses a syringe service program. And we're one of, I think, very few in the state that operates in that way.
What's a syringe service? Because there's going to be people listening that don't know what the heck you just said.
So we offer harm reduction supplies that includes wound care, sex health education. It does include safe use supplies as well. But we really try to be that middle ground between transition, if you're coming off the street in active use, you want to use less, or you want to move towards abstinence. We're there for you every step of the way. Whether you need to talk with somebody maybe about MOUD, which is medications for opioid use disorder, or medically assisted treatments. We're there for that conversation as well. And, we're very excited about recovery. I practice an abstinence-based recovery myself. So I know the importance of that and the harm reduction that includes that too.
Yeah. Well, and I am sure there's going to be a listener or two that have heard the term harm reduction and they're like, Isn't that just when you say it's okay to use drugs? What's your quick response when somebody kind of gives you that side eye and goes, that harm reduction? What is that?
Nobody really remembers their interaction with it, but all of us in recovery, even in that abstinence state, have practiced harm reduction.
Oh, I like
You
that.
know,
Yeah.
because we've reduced harm in our own bodies. You
Right.
know,
Which can look like me. At one time, I just was drinking a lot less.
hmm
I reduced the potential harm for myself and society in general. So, I mean, so I'm looking at it from my lens. What else have you said to folks to help them
it,
understand?
it's the most passionate thing you can do with a human, and it relies on the human themselves. Because what we know about recovery is it starts within yourself, and change can't be like it can't happen externally. Nobody can make you want to change. It has to happen internally. And
Yeah.
this kind of feeds into that process. And we really, really are centered around what the person wants and, what their vision of progress or success looks like for them.
hmm Well, and I think, having done all the trainings that I've done, you also do peer recovery specialist training, I've done it for a while. When you're working with individuals who want to help people who are on their journey of recovery, even our own community scratches their head a little bit on, harm reduction. Oh, really? Because there's a lot of misconception and misunderstanding and complete lack of information in some communities about what reducing the harm is. I simplify it and saying, hey, do y'all lock your doors?
hmm
That's harm reduction.
hmm
Hey, do you wear a helmet when you get on a bike? Hey, that's harm reduction. Yeah. Do you, in any time in your life, have you ever used a condom? Hello, that's harm reduction.
Yeah.
So it's everywhere. But when we hear it in the substance use disorder world, it like takes on this whole other, like, you can't do that, or what is that?
People get real hung up on the supplies,
Yeah,
like,
yeah.
and it's not just that. There's like huge elements like social justice.
Mhm.
We all need,
Yeah.
especially right now,
Yeah, for
like,
sure. Yeah. I mean, so when we talk about supplies, we're talking about giving people the things that they need to use the substances that they have the addiction to. And the idea is that if you give them the things that they need, number one, it's clean. I'm going to just go with basics. You fill in any of the blanks. They're clean supplies. There are things that are not shared. So we're not spreading disease on top of, there's other things that can happen. And you think about it from the fact that when you are giving somebody some support, you're giving them some care, you're saying, I want you to live your best life, whatever, as you said, you choose. All of a sudden, there's this interaction, this human interaction that says, I care so much about you. I'm even going to give you this kind of, you're thinking in your brain, but I'm going to give you this because that's how much I care. And in our world, we have naloxone and Narcan and all those things available. And also, by the way, here's this, so that if you should have an overdose or something happens, I want you to live,
hmm
because that's the name of our game, is like keeping people alive until they see whatever their recovery looks like. And it's so simple and so complex at the same time.
It's agape support.
Say that one more time.
Agape support, unconditional support.
Oh, love that.
hmm
What is agape? What language is
Agape is unconditional. Usually, it's like a relation to love.
okay?
You know, and I do love my people.
Oh,
But I like the idea of like providing unconditional support. I'm not going to help you just because you want to, like, your route of recovery matches mine. But even if it doesn't, I still want you to be safe. And yeah, the supplies part is like, it made more sense in a time where like AIDS and HIV was much more prevalent, and we've come so far, and we had all these leaps and bounds that I feel like now it's a little taken for granted. If those supports didn't exist, we would have like this epidemic and that one.
yeah. No,
Like
I always. I'm not glad you said that, but I'm glad you said that, because I've always equated the two, the AIDS epidemic and the opioid epidemic. One we have had a better solution to, still have problems, still have things we have to figure out, and it's taking almost as much time too. So when we come back, I'd really like to kind of marry those two together, because it's like I heard it from a professional somewhere when I was listening. So I'm like, I say that too. I'm on the right wavelength. So thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution. Emanuel and I will be back momentarily to continue this conversation and learn a little bit about him. So thank you for listening. My name is Caddy Frink, your host on Redefining Recovery Revolution, brought to you by Minnesota Recovery Connection and AM 950. Got a little frown on your brow. You're like, what is this music that's playing, right, Emmanuel?
Might have to hit up Aaron. I'm like, yo,
what is
yo,
this?
What you listening
yeah,
to? It's
I know.
happy.
Yeah, it's very happy. Everybody usually just does like a little bit of a shimmy in their seat. So I'm back with Emanuel from Anything Helps, a recovery community organization. My name is Caddy Frink, your host of Redefining Recovery, Recovery Revolution. We just closed out the first segment and talking about the epidemic of AIDS and HIV and how that has come a long way. But that's really where harm reduction began, when we started talking about using condoms and saving people's lives so that disease did not continue to spread, which of course it didn't solve it all, but boy, did it put a helpful, I was going to say plug in the jug. That is probably the most worstest thing I could possibly say. Sometimes I get it wrong, but I'm turning red. I can just feel it. But it helped this situation. And then what happened is that science came along and the right people were doing the right things and medications came along and the cocktails, that's the right term, of medications came along for people that struggled. I personally lost several friends back in the day when the epidemic was in its peak, shall we say. And I know other people, I've just learned some stories recently about some lost people. But then we have this opioid epidemic that has just like gripped the world. But now we're implementing this harm reduction idea, and that's Anything Helps. It's not just what you do, but that's kind of the focus. So I want you to talk about that. But first, why are you sitting in the chair across from me? What's your story about substance use? What got you to being where you're at right now?
Sometimes I feel like I'm living a fever dream because
Ooh.
I'm so far from who I used to be that I'm like, who was that dude?
Yeah, just
Like,
you don't have to give me the long story. Give me the short story. But what it does is it helps connect dots, because what I always think of is there's people listening to this show that are not part of our recovery community, but they might have somebody that's struggling. They might have a loved person. And when you tell just a little bit of your story, it might help connect a dot that, oh, okay, my person's had that too. My person has gone through that too. And how did you find a journey in recovery? And so I like to help people, not just in our little, inside baseball world, but there's all these other people that are connected to folks that might be struggling. So just, whatever you're comfortable with sharing.
So my story, I mean, it's really rooted in, like, I had a plethora of broken relationships, whether it was with like my parents or like relationships. But me and relationships just didn't mix. I couldn't, just couldn't find the right mix. A lot of my, like, at the peak of like my use, when I was 13, I got into like marijuana, like everybody.
A lot of people,
You
yeah.
know,
Yeah, it's like they call it the gateway.
And I was
But
like, oh yeah, that's not true, until I'm like, oh, it's kind of opened the door. Like,
hello.
yeah.
Knock, knock, knock.
That was like my first instant at like 13. I caught my sister smoking, and I told her I would tell on her. She didn't give me any. And shout out Shavia.
Good move. Didn't last, but good move from the
Yes.
beginning.
But then, as I grew, high school's introduced. We started introducing like harder substances like Xanax and cocaine. And I'm like 16 with Percocets and all this. I'm
Man.
really, really young. And naturally that progressed into like a bunch of other stimulants, pretty much anything I can get my hands on. But I feel like what I wanted to treat was this absence of love.
Just numb yourself out to it.
Yeah,
It's
my
not
parents were
working.
together. My mom, I love her to death, like, but she was a single mother of 4 kids, and she really couldn't be home like that. She had to work.
Yeah.
And when she worked, we got into everything. My dad was locked up, until I was about 16.
Okay.
He was locked up for murder.
Mm.
And when he got out, a lot of my interaction, like I really had this kind of skewed view of the men in my family. Like a lot of them were like incarcerated or dead, you know?
Wow.
And
So you didn't really have that male relationship that you could in any way lean on other than maybe friends, and would that be fair?
yes, my support system, my view on like how to be like a person, like I thought it was like a birthright to go to prison, you know?
That's so it's not
Like,
uncommon. I hear
yeah.
that so much when you're raised in a mindset because your community and your vision and your lens is so small. I've heard that so many times, you know. Yeah, thank you.
Yeah. And there's just like a separate like kind of I don't even know, something else that kind of played a part in that is like half my family are immigrants,
Mm.
so there's that. Like I've experienced like moving house, bounce to house, like in fear of my dad being taken away
Oh my.
by immigration. At times he would be locked up for 2 months, like when I'm 16, and I'm like, oh yeah, where am I gonna go?
And
I
then
didn't know
dad's not
nothing.
available and mom's already doing
Yeah.
everything she can. She can barely kind of probably keep a family together because she's got to do the deal, pay the
Yeah, me and her
rent.
butted heads because, I had authority issues. I was still trying to figure myself out as a kid.
Sure.
And, that's why she put me with my dad. Like, you take him, like
Do
you deal with
you?
this guy. And, I learned a lot from my dad. And, he was one of the first people I know that, though he has a colorful background, I like to call it,
Yeah, yeah.
a little spicy,
Oh,
but
spicy. Keeps it interesting. A lot of stories there, I'd
he was
imagine.
one of the first people in like my group of males, like my family members, that showed me like you can start a business with a
Mm,
felony on your record. Like you
absolutely.
can you can be an entrepreneur, you can be something and make something of yourself. I watched him open a place called Driver's License Rehab,
Hmm,
where he like helped people get their license back and all that. Um, Now
fabulous.
in my early 20s, like I really butted heads with my kid's mom. Like, that's another relationship that got very toxic real quick. But as again, I was trying to fill a void of that, having that connection, having that family.
Having love.
And yeah, when it didn't go like right, I kind of gave up.
Sure.
Just really gave up.
Well, I would imagine there element of that is that you've had to give up and keep moving because you got to keep on moving. If you wallow in it, it owns you, and then you become miserable, and then other things happen.
Yeah, I was in survival mode for
Yeah.
quite a bit of my life. And then I got like a short break for like 2 years. And when that crumbled, I was like, oh, there's no hope.
Oh.
Like, there's no hope. And I spiraled. I went on this like crime spree where I just stole a bunch of stuff, and it landed me in jail. Surprise. you know? Surprise.
Sometimes history repeats itself,
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. That was honestly a really kind of like it was a transformative place for me. It sucked, but I sat behind the same glass as my dad did and talked to my daughter
Ooh.
like, how my dad talked to me, and that really
Ooh.
hit home with me.
Wow. Just like with my head, that would have to be just like, I don't have words, which is very unusual.
So, that was I feel like the incubator for that first stages of like change. I'm
Right.
contemplating like maybe this life ain't the life I want to live.
Right.
Then when I got out, I was met with a lot of crime. Like people were like, oh yeah, Emmanuel's back.
Let's go.
Let's go again. And I'm like, dude, no, I want to change. Like I just got out of prison. I do not want to go back. And prison itself even was a transformative place. I went to boot camp,
Mm.
and boot camp was amazing. Food was
I've
great. Discipline was great, though it sucked at the time.
Yeah.
You know,
I've heard that before from many of the men, some of the women too. It's like it kind of keeps your brain in check.
it was like the first real instance of like solid discipline and structure. Like we had to make our beds, like with like the blankets at 45-degree angles, dress our like supplies in our lockers and stuff. It was workout at like 4:30 in the morning. I'm
Oh.
like, oh my goodness, it
Uh-huh.
was terrible. But what what a transformation it costs. I really love that program. But when I got out, it was the start to that change. Like, I want to do something. So, I was used to making a lot of money. I didn't want money to like be a thing
Mm-hmm.
for me. So, I filled out like 40 applications because I had, felony theft
Yep.
on my background, and people don't like when you steal in any
You
business.
know, it's a thing. It's a thing. It's kind of not your best calling card.
No,
No.
hey, I used to steal. Hey, I want to
Hey,
work for you.
yeah,
No,
okay.
nobody likes that. Right? But I filled out 40 applications. Of those 40, I got 5 like interviews. Of those 5, I could work like 2.
Okay.
And at this time, I'm in my recovery. I really don't know what to do with my hands. And I worked at Smart Warehousing in a place called Jimmy John's.
Jimmy
Freaky
John.
fast.
Freaky, freaky
You know?
fast.
They gave me a chance, and within that chance, there was a CPRS that actually worked there. He only worked 2 days a week at Jimmy John's as a driver, and he's like, I love my real gig. And I'm like,
Yeah.
what's your real
What's
gig?
that? What's
I'm
that?
over here making sandwiches. There's no soul in this, I'm lifting these boxes. I'm really working hard. And
Right.
he's like, I help people. Like, I help people.
And your little eyes lit up, I'm sure, like, what?
You can do that?
Yeah.
Like, and then he's like, I got a background too. And I'm like, what?
What? You mean that's valuable?
Yeah. So, fast forward a little bit, I checked it out. I took the class, and, through that class, I began work as a CPRS. I used to work at Catholic Charities. I worked with RSC then. I worked in the encampments, and I really found a true passion for help.
Right.
And then with that, I started training the class because I was passionate about the people providing the help, because I'm like, this is the way you do it.
Yeah. Man, you're preaching to the choir here. I'm like, this is how you do this work. Please, this is how you do this work.
And then Anything Helps kind of came about because I really couldn't find a place that helped in the way that I saw, like that had that like true compassion for the people in between. And I wanted to exist in a space where I didn't have to deny either abstinence or harm reduction.
Right.
I wanted to have person-centered care. And I learned that through like the peer recovery support stuff. And now fast forward, we've come into a lot. Like, we're doing trainings, we have a drop-in center.
Where's your drop-in center? Let's tell the folks.
3859 Fremont Avenue North.
Yep, on the corner of 39th and Fremont North.
It's a beautiful place. There's a lot of beautiful people there. It's really not set up like a drop-in center. It's like a co-op. Like, we invite local like organizations to come and strut their stuff, provide resources, and share that impact, because we can't do it alone.
No, not at all. No, it's so interesting having been there a couple of times, and the events that have been held there. It really doesn't feel like anything clinical. It doesn't feel like anything like, you're going to treatment or you're going to a meeting of some kind. It's like this space where like, oh, okay, I got some couches. I got some, and hey, there's a kitchen. Ooh, there might be something in that kitchen. Hey, there's a shower. Ooh, there's some laundry. Oh, there's a place where there might be medical supplies and the stuff that you need for harm reduction. But it's just a casual environment. And that's what I think our people need to feel like they're welcomed in. Oh, keep talking.
There's like laughter in there is like something that really warms my soul. It's real laughs, not like clinical, like small chat, like we roast each other.
Yeah.
Like, like
there's
it's
stuff going on behind the scenes that you can't know about, type of thing.
It's really like, you can tell the community trusts us.
Nice.
And that to me is worth more than gold. Like, to be able to be impactful and helpful, and to be invited in and trusted by members of the community.
And a lot of the community don't have a lot of trust because they've been let down by family and friends and law enforcement and treatment centers and even, other help in the community. They've said, yeah, we can help you. And then they fall off the earth or they go someplace. And so Anything Helps is a place where people can go. And it's like, I may not have what you need today, but I'm willing to either see if I can find it or what's the next thing you need on your list. I come from a place where we have to be really realistic with people. I say we can never promise anything, but what we can do is at least we can be there and we can listen to what you've got to say. Because I think sometimes just having that ability to have somebody say, I'm just really hurting today. Man, okay, cool. Tell me about that. mean, that's a space where people don't get that much breath sometimes. It's like, here, let me fix you. Let me give you this. Let me give you that. And we're kind of going back to the core of like Minnesota Recovery Connection. What is it that we need to do? We need to hear what the community needs. And that's what Anything Helps does. That's what I see you guys do. You just reach out and say, what do you need?
Yeah, and I feel like sometimes as provider we just overcomplicate it.
Oh,
It's like we talk to other providers and like, what are the people we need, instead of being like, people, what you need.
yeah.
Like, you know.
Yeah. We've started doing something new, and we're reaching out to not recovery community or neighborhood association members, and like all around the cities, St. Paul, Minneapolis, and knocking on their door and saying, what's going on in your neighborhood? What are your neighbors saying? What are your community members saying? What's going on? And really going back to that, what do people need to know about the people that are struggling, either in your household or the people who are, one woman we were talking to says, I've got somebody rummaging through my garbage can looking for food. And it's like, can I give you a sandwich instead of you do that? And then all of a sudden she said, I've got my empathy back because I saw them. And it's like, that's what we need to do. Even the people that are at their lowest, if like we can acknowledge them, look at them in their eyes and say, I see you. You're still human. You might be a hot mess, but you're human. And somebody probably out there does love you somewhere along the line. Might have burned all the bridges, but there's somebody that is really worried about you somewhere. And I think that's the message that I want people to know, is that when people really struggle, remember that there's a human inside there, and all this minutia that's going on around them, there's many different reasons why that happened. And that's one of the things that we're trying to bring into these communities and say, remember there's a human, and what brought them to their living without a home or their substance use isn't necessarily because they're a drug addict or an alcoholic. That got them there because of a bunch of circumstances. So let's look at the human side and then try to put things in place, in position. Because I think a lot of people in our greater community, because when I'm in my class, I'm like, those people out there don't understand what I say. And I don't say it to anybody, but if I say I'm an alcoholic, somebody might go, oh. And I go, no, I'm a woman in recovery and I did struggle with alcohol. Wow, that sounds very different. So how do we get the message to community to say that if somebody's struggling, it doesn't mean that they're really bad or they're following harm reduction? What is it that we can maybe do as a community? Maybe you can't give them money and you can't volunteer someplace, but maybe you can help a friend, help a friend, help a friend.
Mm-hmm.
It's all about community. We got to remember that.
I feel like recovery is infinite. It's always a work in progress. And I feel like when we get to talking about labels and that, like, yes, I'm a person that, suffered from like, stimulants, stimulants were my thing. But addict doesn't define me.
No.
I'm a person that is recovered. I'm healing, and it's an active thing. I work on this every day. I'm not just recovered.
No.
No.
Oh, it's funny that you should say that. I probably shared this before, but back in the day when I was in AA, because I've been in recovery for a long time. So for about 17 years, I went to one group every Wednesday. That was my get jam. There was a wonderful a guy there named Larry, and Larry was a Buju. He was Jewish and he was Buddhist, so he called himself a Buju. And I'm like, yo, love that. Yeah, I'm like, you do you, Larry. And he's a mature guy. And he would have people come up to him and say, hey, Larry, when are you going to be done with this, alcoholism, given the language that was at the time? And he's like, when are you going to like be done with all this? And he's like, so let me turn that back on you. So when are you going to stop taking showers? Because this is every day. This is who I am. And I was like, Larry, you Buju, you all the way. I mean, he like laid it out. And like, it's forever. Like you said, this is not something that ends. It's constant. Just like whenever we're doing anything health-wise. I mean, if you got a disease, whatever it is, I got heart disease, I got this, I got that. I don't stop taking my medication because like, I think I'm better now. No, it's my lifelong thing that I have to look at, just like recovery.
Mm-hmm. I also believe that the support is attrition, because there's a very real scenario where we had people coming in with like they came with a bucket of dead puppies, and I'm like, I don't have any resources for that, but they trusted us to help them sort that.
Are you talking literally?
Quite literally. And we're like, whoa, we weren't like, gas, right? We're like, oh, this
Don't
is a
quite,
situation.
yeah, we don't know what to do about this,
Yeah,
but
but we supported them. It was a couple, and they used to, come to our syringe service program, and then as we engaged, as we provided that resource, as we built that trust, we've seen them progress, and this is over the span of like a year,
Mm.
where they stopped picking up at the SSP, they
SSP.
syringe service program.
Okay.
They they're like, they start asking questions about like treatment and sobriety, then they check themselves in, and then now they are doing much better than myself. Like the guy, he pulled up on me and he was like, look at my car. I'm like, oh yeah, stun on me, man. Yeah, I like your car, man. Yeah, what else you doing? He's like, that lawnmower back there, that's mine. I'm like, okay, I see how you living.
Look at
I
you.
love when people I work with come up and like, hey man, life
Show
is good.
show the fruits of recovery. The fruits.
Absolutely.
I mean, I can't even. I mean, literally coming up with a bunch of dead puppies, not knowing what to do, probably in a world of pain in all different ways, to a yearish later driving up in a car with a lawnmower. I mean, it don't get much better. These are the stories that we want people to hear. It can be as bad as what you first described, and then it can turn out, as long as there's somebody there who says it's okay to be you.
Mm-hmm.
Person-centered. I'll meet you where you're at. I'm not afraid of you. I want to help you. And it's like so many people are afraid of people that struggle with substance use disorder because I don't get it. I don't understand it. You don't have to. Just love on them.
Mm-hmm.
Give them the compassion, give them the empathy, because they've already shamed themselves. They've already beat themselves up. They already don't know what to do next. So why don't we just love up on people?
Yeah, I
It's as
would look
simple as
you
that.
dead in the most ugliest sides of your life.
Hmm.
And I would love you the same as when you're doing your best. And if you happen to slip up, or maybe you need my support again, I'm not going to judge you like what happened. I'm going to provide that same agape support.
Hmm. And
100%.
welcome you back.
Yeah, open arms.
Yeah.
Hey, what
Well,
happened? Long time no see. Oh,
yeah.
what resources?
Yeah. Where do we go from now? Hey, maybe you want to talk about a little bit what happened, so maybe we don't repeat history. But if you don't want to, that's fine too. Exactly. It's like not so much what's wrong with you, it's what happened to you, because that's really the message. Because what's wrong with people, that can happen all day long. But what's happened to people? What brought them to the space that they're in? And there's a million quadrillion different stories that are out there. And that's what I think we just have to remember. And that is, we live, I think you would say the same thing. We live by hearing these stories about what got people into life and out of life and into their weird spaces. It's like, tell me more stories, because it's kind of cool. And then also, where do we go from here?
The stories are probably my favorite part. Not like to have some like some personal hero complex, but you know, I always am reminded by my own story, like what I didn't have anybody to kind of really give me that support. I always had to lie, I feel like cheat, steal.
Hmm.
And then I got kind of tired of my own self.
Hmm.
But
Oh,
imagine where I could have been if somebody had just heard me or accepted me without judgment. I feel like that's what we all strive for. And,
absolutely.
we argue about the routes of it, which
Yeah.
I feel like now is kind of silly.
Yeah.
How do
Like,
we know we need help, but argue about the way we
you're gonna
provide
get there. Yeah, yeah.
it?
I mean, it's the doors. Oh, if the door is open, let's all just walk right through it and walk through together, either holding hands or bumping elbows, or But let's just keep moving, versus getting stuck in the stuff, the how, what, where, when. It's really, what do you want to do? What does it look like? What does your recovery, or what does the next day look like? Because sometimes it might even be the next 5 minutes for somebody.
Hmm.
It could be as simple as that. We're about ready to take our next break. So cool what you're doing. So cool what you're doing. I've had this opportunity to work with Emanuel in a few different projects now, and we were just at Ostracize, drink that Whitney Oh, what's Whitney's
Whitney
last?
Nelson.
Nelson
Shout out
had.
Whitney Nelson.
Shout out Whitney Nelson. Ostracized. It's alcohol alternative. She's fabulous. But we were talking at that event, and it's just like I just got to know you a little bit more. I got to meet your lovely wife, and it's like we have so many stories that we can share. And it's like every time we open up a little bit more, and we have conversations like this on the radio, it's like I just want people to hear that there's so much available out there, but we have to talk to one another. So we're going to take our break. Thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution here on AM 950. With whom is across the table from me?
Emanuel Roberts.
From where?
Anything helps.
Okay, we'll be back in a little bit. Thank you for listening.
This guitar needs 6 strings, 'cause without it there's no song.
Oh, I just love that smooth music that's happening there. I'd always do that too. It's like a sort of little kooky. My name is Caddy from Minnesota Recovery Connection. This is Redefining Recovery, a Recovery Revolution. I am across the table from Emanuel Roberts from Anything Helps. He's been just talking about how fabulous his recovery community organization is and all the things that we sort of share and then are very different about one another. But what's really cool is that Emanuel will spread himself very too thin. He will spread himself very too thin, but he was just in a meeting with us last night. We were talking with our peer advisory council about like what are the next events that we're going to do? How can we collaborate, build community, get information, ask our community what they need versus come up with our goals and implement them. And sometimes that can be a huge miss. So what's happening with Anything Helps as things move forward? Because I know you just landed some financial goodies.
Mhm.
What's all that going to do for you?
We have a lot going on. Yeah, I'm well known for spreading myself very thin. Excuse me. We are really in this space to kind of build more robust like training systems.
Hmm.
We see a need for some harm reduction training, but the way we're going about it is to learn from the experts. There's many people out there who have been doing this work for a very long time. And what's crazy is they're just so quiet, you know?
I know. It's so important, but it's still kind of that undercurrent, isn't it?
hmm
It's like, no, let's get our voices heard and normalize it, not have it be the stigmatizing terms like, oh, that stuff.
hmm
Yeah.
And they're some of the brightest individuals I know. And a lot of that came with the stigma that came from the work. You know, people have opinions about everything, but I mean, they've been some of the most compassionate people I've ever been around. And so we wanted to invite them to the party when we were creating content around harm reduction so that those people, it's like a thank you for your work,
Mm-hmm.
and also your voice should be heard.
And validating all that experience.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And we're also like looking at harm reduction in different communities because it looks different
Yep.
in different communities.
Yeah.
Like sometimes, like even in like the African American space,
Mm-hmm.
some of our first harm reduction efforts kind of started in the civil rights movement, and in churches. So reconnecting with our roots to provide, relatable resources that way. Training's huge. We got community dinners coming up, multiple different collaborations with multiple different organizations, but it's really kind of tighten up this kind of peer support and training space.
Okay. Okay. So harm reduction, what are some of the other topics? Or is it really harm reduction and just expanding that?
Yeah, more structuring out and expanding it. I noticed because I'm also a peer reviewer for Minnesota Alliance of Recovery Community Organizations.
So am I.
Yep. Uh, so it's we've noticed like in a lot of those spaces, like we're recovery community organizations, and part of our commitment is honoring all pathways. And sometimes, we're passionate about our recovery, we're passionate about our absence, that, sometimes those harm reduction efforts get lost. So part of our big push or our big bite is inviting like harm reduction places to like become RCOs, recovery community organizations. I speak in.
I know we got it. We speak inside baseball. That's why I break it down every now and then.
And while also like,
Partnerships. I mean, a good, big, robust partnerships. Having 1 million RCOs is great, but sometimes then that muddies the water. Let's get some strong organizations partnering together. I mean, not to say that that's not a good idea. Don't misunderstand me, but it's just, that's great. I mean, I would love it and I do love the fact that you're, this is your space and you're growing it because, Aaron Fitzgerald, who used to be my co-host, and Bill Houston, thank you. Names are eluding me sometimes. They have been, real champions in the harm reduction world with MRC, and then both of them have sort of broken off and they're doing their own thing, and they're doing their own thing, and they're doing their thing separately. So it's like all over the place. But that's kind of what's happened with harm reduction, is that it hasn't found a solidified way of being represented so that it becomes like a very normal thing to our community, and everybody's got their own opinion on it. So I think that's just super fantastic.
Yeah, I think it'd be helpful for some of like the more prevalent leaders in that space to enter the space, because otherwise harm reduction gets defined by only the recovery community, which I believe they deserve a seat at the table as a pathway in recovery. So it might not be all. No. But some would be nice.
And and I think to your point, and that is when there are organizations that have that one pathway that they follow, and then what happens is that the people that are part of those organizations only see that one pathway. And then what happens is somebody who comes to them who needs help, who likes their organization, they are getting only one message where you can do this differently. And then what happens is that person who maybe falls into a reuse or slip, whatever you want to call it, then they think that they have to go back to one way of doing recovery. And it's like, no, it's so vast on how you can do this. And harm reduction is a way to do it. I mean, you opened up our conversation about, like when I was practicing harm reduction, I didn't even know it back in the day. It's 100 million years ago that I got sober, but I limited my drinking. Well, hello. I mean, that's reducing harm. Sometimes I say to people, it's like, maybe you can stop messing around with fentanyl or stimulants and maybe drink instead. That sounds crazy, but one is potentially deadly. The other one is too, but it's a different way of looking at it. You still need a little relief from this or that. And I know that would be controversial to a lot of people when I say that, but I'm like, hey, it ain't your game. I'm just giving you ideas so that you don't use something that could literally kill you in one shot. Literally. How do we prevent that? So we only got a couple minutes left. So what else do you want people to know about your organization or you and this whole beautiful world that we get to wander around in, sometimes blindly?
Yes. It's a blur. Every time I get asked a question like what do you do? I'm just like, a lot. I'm like, wait, do you want to work together?
That's his comment. It's like, hey, do you want to partner with that?
Yes. I would really ask that other organizations share that mindset, because I mean, and especially in this place where resources are thin, we have to back each other up. And we don't care if you do the same thing, you do different things. If you have a heart to help, we want to work with you.
Mm-hmm. And on that same, every organization, either in the treatment world or recovery community world, wherever you are, we all have a little special secret sauce. We got a little something special why we opened up or why we're doing what we're doing. That needs to be shared, because it's all about, because we might come across somebody who needs a little something of what, Anything Helps has, or GOM Recovery, the Hmong organization that I'm part of. we all have different community members, and then we have to remember, we've got Nia Recovery, who was here last show. We have so many different cultural communities, and within those cultures, they have different beliefs around harm reduction or around different lifestyles, around using substances. Alcohol is okay, but drugs aren't. So we need to just sort of like make it less complicated, simplify it, and just say, how do we help? It's so complex, but it's so simple.
I feel like people think it's like you got to eat what's on the plate.
Yeah.
Rather than like, what do you want for dinner?
Yeah.
Well,
let me show you the buffet.
Yeah, it's a buffet here.
Let's see the buffet of all the options.
I don't want crab. I'm like, okay, that's just an option.
Yeah, okay. Chicken's right over there.
Yeah.
Well, we're about in the last 30 seconds. So, Emanuel, thank you so much for coming in. This is great. I want to have you back again. You work with Minnesota Recovery Connection on a sort of, wild basis, but it's just delightful to have you.
Absolutely. Thank you for having me.
Okay, everybody, thank you for listening to Redefining Recovery, a recovery revolution here on AM 950, the progressive radio station. Thank you to all our funders, our volunteers, everybody. We will be delighted to see you come to our webpage, and thank you.